I accompanied Siju from having nothing to achieving fame and success. Spending a full 13 years. Everyone said I had finally made it. Until I accidentally saw the message on his phone, if you hadn't forced the marriage, I would have broken up with Zhang Ning long ago. That night, I packed my bags and left, determined. 3 months after the breakup, Siju lost his mind, 3 a.m. Siju's phone kept ringing, but he slept soundly beside me, his heartbeat steady. Standing by the bed, I looked at the barrage of messages on his WeChat. Among the congratulatory messages about his daytime marriage proposal, the most glaring were over 20 messages from Siju's mother. Out of curiosity, I clicked on them. You brat. How can you say something like this? Are you even human? When our family was in trouble, Ning Ning stayed by your side eating scraps. Now that you've made it, you've forgotten everything. If you dare let Ning Ning down, I'll hang myself. I frowned. These words shouldn't have appeared at this time. Just that day, Siju had prepared a grand marriage proposal for me on a yacht, kneeling on one knee in front of family and friends to present the ring. The ring was still firmly on my finger, even though I hadn't really wanted it. I scrolled up and saw Siju's messages. Mom, all I feel for Zhang Ning is familial affection now. If you hadn't forced the marriage, I would have broken up with her. No matter how much you like someone after 13 years together, the novelty wears off. My curiosity vanished. I wasn't as surprised as if I had seen it coming. I wasn't heartbroken either. Instead, I felt a genuine sense of relief. After all, Siju's attitude had inexplicably cooled off 3 months ago. At the time, I thought he was just exhausted from work and didn't press the issue, nor did I throw any unreasonable tantrums. Instead, I specially made his favorite pork bone soup and brought it to his office. But his female secretary stopped me at the door. With the soup in hand, I waited 5 hours for him to come out. When he did, he was accompanied by a glamorous business partner, chatting happily. When he saw me, Siju's face visibly stiffened and he said coldly, disregarding the onlookers, "Why are you still here?" It was only later that I realized the soup had gone cold, and the person's heart had grown even colder. That same day, I received photos of him and his female secretary entering and leaving a hotel together. The man in his early 20s who once pointed at a diamond ring in a shop window and said he'd marry me had, at 30, cheated, emotionally abused me, and admitted he'd wanted to break up long ago. Siju had succeeded, and I, who had accompanied him on his journey to success, had become an obstacle. 13 years, even the most precious item would grow old and lose its luster. People were no different. When I first got together with him, I was 21, young and vibrant. Now I was 34. How could I compare to the beautiful or youthful women around him? He was 32, successful in his career, a talented young man. At the peak of his popularity, my presence indirectly prevented him from finding someone better. Fortunately, Siju always slept deeply. He had a habit of taking melatonin, and unless there was too much noise, he wouldn't wake up. It took me half an hour to pack my things, but I still woke the sleeping man. That wasn't my intention. Meeting Siju's sleepy eyes, I said, "Did I wake you?" He was extremely impatient. That look of irritation and disgust had never appeared in the first 5 years of our relationship, but it had become frequent lately. Watching someone else's love fade until it disappeared felt like a chronic illness. The process wasn't too painful, but it had to end eventually. Today was the day I chose to draw a final line under this 13-year relationship. "What are you doing so late?" Siju rubbed his temples, eyes lowered as if he couldn't bear to look at me anymore. "If you don't want to sleep, you can leave, sorry." I was calm and composed. Under his still groggy gaze, I took off the ring from my ring finger. It had been less than 6 hours since I put it on. "I accidentally saw your messages with your mom." The accidentally was a lie, but seeing them was true. Siju showed no guilt or panic, only indifference. "So? Let's break up." That was my true stance. Siju couldn't help but laugh. Of course. In these 13 years together, I had taken meticulous care of him. Even before marriage, I had acted like a devoted wife. He had undergone major surgery as a child and was in poor health, so I learned to cook to nourish him. During the early days of his entrepreneurship, he threw himself into networking and drinking sessions. Since he couldn't handle much alcohol, I stepped in to drink for him. Over the years, as he traveled the world on business trips, I stayed home, waiting for him. Even Siju probably thought I was desperate to marry him. But to me, marriage wasn't important. I just wanted him to be well, even if I wasn't by his side. "If you say that, I'll take it seriously." "I mean it." Siju turned on a bedside lamp, his expression stern. He emphasized, "This isn't me breaking up with you. It's you breaking up with me." He didn't want to be the heartless villain everyone condemned, nor did he want to bear the stigma of betraying a woman's precious youth. I understood. Of course. At that moment, I caught a look of relief on his face. "Silly man. If it was his wish, I would do everything to fulfill it, even something as simple as breaking up. In the first 5 years with Siju, we endured hardships together. He worked desperately to pay off debts while I took care of his seriously ill mother, humbly pleading with creditors for leniency. In the next 5 years after he graduated, he started his business. The early days were exhausting. He left early and returned late, often carrying the scent of perfume or lipstick. I never questioned any of it, only focused on being his support. And he had always remained faithful, never crossing professional boundaries with other women. For 10 years, nothing changed. But recently, he had changed. A lot less concern, forgotten anniversaries. The deliberate coldness was likely a precursor to a breakup. I was too foolish to realize it sooner. If I had noticed earlier, I would have ended things swiftly, without dragging it out, fulfilling his wishes and my own. Siju called 3 days later. I was in the middle of a class and without a second thought, hung up. It was the first time in 13 years I had hung up on him. A WeChat message followed immediately. From Siju, answer the phone. Such an entitled tone, truly a sign of being spoiled. I replied helplessly, I'm in class. Siju, Mom found out about the breakup. She doesn't believe you wanted to break up. I kept it brief, I'll explain. After sending that, I flipped my phone screen down and focused on teaching. I didn't see Siju's next message. She is already on her way and wants to hear you explain in person. When does class end? I'll pick you up. After the last class ended, I walked out of the classroom and someone followed me. Sis Zhongning. It was Yuan King, a student in my class. He hurried over to me, his youthful face slightly shy. I liked his face very much, especially his eyes. Looking at them always lifted my mood. I heard from Mom you're getting married. But the first thing he asked wasn't what I wanted to hear. I shook my head. It's not happening. I broke up. Broke up? Yuan King's surprise was fleeting, replaced more by reflection. You've been together for over a decade. How did you suddenly break up? As he spoke, his eyes suddenly turned sorrowful. Is it because, no. Checking the time, I cut him off before he could speculate further. Don't overthink it. It was an amicable breakup. 13 years, 4,745 days. A staggering number. To anyone, it couldn't possibly be amicable. The year I met Siju, I was 21 and he was 19. His family had gone bankrupt, burdened with millions in debt. Forced to make money, he became a tutor. By coincidence, we were both tutoring the same student. He taught math. I taught English. When the student's parents introduced us, Siju still looked like a teenager, poor and stubborn after his family's downfall. When I shook his hand, his ears secretly turned red. Later, I proactively found him high-paying tutoring gigs, and even gave him the money I earned to help pay off his debts. When debtors caught and beat him, I took him to the hospital and stayed by his side all night without sleeping. When he woke up, his face pale, he asked me, "Why are you so good to me?" I was at a loss for words, unsure how to get closer to him, so I just blurted out, "I like you." But when I said that, I wasn't looking at his face. After we got together, I poured all my efforts into being good to him. He needed money, so I took on multiple jobs to help him pay off the debts. At our poorest, we shared a pack of instant noodles or a single loaf of bread. Later, when his business succeeded, he paid off the debts, moved us into a big house, compensated me as best he could, and promised to marry me. But I forgot, some people can share hardships but not successes. Siju achieved fame and success, while I remained stuck in place. I knew deep down I should have let go long ago. I was just waiting for the right moment. Yuan King walked me out of school. It had started raining, and he held the umbrella mostly over my head. He talked a lot and it was a bit noisy, but his voice was pleasant. I smiled faintly, occasionally chiming in. The school gate was crowded with many cars packed together. I hadn't noticed Siju's car was there too. When the sharp honking sounded, Yuan King and I both saw Siju's livid face. After saying goodbye to Yuan King, Siju watched me get into the car in the rain. In the past, even if I just caught a chill, he would worry terribly, his eyes reddening as he vowed that once he had money, he would never let me suffer again. He had indeed made it, but his promise not to let me suffer was a lie. But I didn't blame him, nor did I resent him. On the contrary, I was satisfied with this outcome. I actually felt a bit guilty before. Siju said abruptly, his words puzzling to me. It seemed you wanted to break up long ago too. That's why you left so decisively. I touched my damp hair ends. Even though it was no longer necessary to explain anything to Siju, I still had to say something, to avoid making him unhappy. What I feared most was him being unhappy. His emotions could affect his health too easily. That's Yuan King. You know him, just a younger brother of mine. But I noticed long ago you look at him strangely. I froze, suddenly at a loss for words. Just like that time when Siju suddenly asked me why I was so good to him. I felt guilty, of course, and couldn't answer. The whole way, Siju drove slowly, very slowly. Siju's mother had arrived early in the morning, looking as if she'd just cried, her eyes red. As soon as she saw me, she grabbed my hand and wouldn't let go. Ning Ning, tell me, did this brat mistreat you? He said you're breaking up. Weren't things fine just the other day? Didn't you agree to get married? So many questions left me speechless. Siju walked past me indifferently, helping his mother sit down. He gave me a cool glance as if urging me to explain. After all, once his mother was appeased, he would truly be free. I'd help him. Who could bear to see him upset? I simply couldn't watch him suffer. It was me who wanted to break up. I hadn't yet organized my words, nor was I prepared to face the tears of Siju's mother. Back when I was with Siju, whenever he was too busy to care for his seriously ill mother, I was the one who stepped in, treating her like my own mother. At that time, Siju's mother always said I was a good girl, that she only acknowledged me, and urged Siju to marry me sooner rather than later, to avoid dragging things out until problems arose. Her words proved prophetic. Now there really was a problem. I opened my mouth, drawing on years of practice improvisation. Auntie, Siju and I aren't suitable. It's better to part ways sooner, so we don't hold each other back. When I said the last 4 words, I clearly sensed Siju's eyes darken. News of the breakup with Siju spread from his mother. Soon after, our mutual friends reached out one by one. Not a single one wasn't full of regret. After all, a 13-year relationship ending like this was truly lamentable. While I was still explaining, Yuan King sent a WeChat message. Sis Zhongning, my mom hurt her foot. She says she misses you a lot. Yuan King's family lived in another province. To visit his mother, I took leave and hurried over. But on the very first day at the hospital, I ran into Siju. He seemed unwell, his complexion poor. In the past, at times like this, I would drop everything to rush to his side, fussing over him. But now, the person by his side wasn't me. I remembered this female secretary. She was the one who had stopped me outside Siju's office that time. She was also the one who was seen entering and leaving a hotel with Siju. After Siju and I broke up, it seemed natural for them to be together. I wasn't heartbroken. On the contrary, I genuinely wanted to wish Siju happiness. Only when he was happy, with someone new by his side, could I leave with peace of mind. Aunt Yuan sat beside me, tugging my sleeve. Ning Ning, do you know that person? We had broken up, and he had someone else now. I had no reason to approach him. It wouldn't be good to cause a misunderstanding. I don't know him, I denied. When I went downstairs to get Aunt Yuan's fracture x-rays, Siju's secretary stood in front of me. She was clearly young and somewhat naive, yet trying hard to appear capable. Miss Zhang. Sujia hesitated. The boss is upstairs. Do you want to go see him? I had to admit, I was indeed a little worried about Siju. During all those years together, I would have gladly given him some of my own lifespan and health if it meant he could live longer. To improve his health, I learned to cook and make soups. Before that, I had never cooked. After the breakup, what worried me most was his frail health. How is he? What's wrong? Is it his old problem acting up again? I hadn't intended to ask the second part, but instinctive concern made the words slip out. A scrutinizing suspicion flashed in Sujia's eyes. He just drank a bit too much at a business dinner a couple of days ago. Upset his stomach. I breathed a sigh of relief. Then I won't go. My answer was a reassurance to Sujia, but my added words didn't please her much. If Siju has any other health issues in the future, please let me know. Also, his health really isn't great. He needs you to take extra care. Miss Zhang, you've already broken up. That was true. I narrowed my eyes with a light smile. Without any malice, I know. That's why I only want to know about Siju's health. It's very important to me. When I went upstairs, Siju was sitting beside Aunt Yuan. I didn't know what they had talked about, but they were both smiling. Seeing me, Siju stood up, his tone sarcastic. After being together for so long, how come you never told me you had a godmother? Godmother? Well, sort of. Almost. Aunt Yuan almost became my real mother. Just almost. Siju walked away. Aunt Yuan watched his retreating figure. She held my hand, her expression on the verge of breaking. Looking down, I could see the tears welling in her eyes. Ning Ning, was it him? I nodded. Aunt Yuan, tearful, nodded with a smile. On the way back, Aunt Yuan patted my hand, advising, "That's a good kid. You should cherish him." Siju was, of course, good, hardworking, gentle, magnanimous. Very good. Even now, I still remember when he earned his first big sum of money. He carefully handed me the card containing the money. Nervous, flustered, and a bit endearingly shy, he said, "From now on, you manage all my money." I said it wasn't necessary. He insisted, looking at me with those earnest, bright eyes. "Zhongning, do you know what it means when a man gives all his money to a woman?" That year, he was 25 and I was 27. He wanted to propose, I knew. Of course I knew. But I had already taken another person's money. I couldn't take his anymore. I stayed with Aunt Yuan for half a month, tending to her foot injury, while she directed my cooking, praising how much my skills had improved in when I was a child and would cut my hand even while slicing an orange. I bit into a sour orange segment, smiling. I did that on purpose back then. She laughed, called me a schemer, then praised me for being a far cry from the past, my cooking now rivaling a chef's. I spoke quickly, clumsily, blurting out, "What does it matter how good it is? I still learned too late." The atmosphere suddenly quieted. I saw Aunt Yuan turn her face away to wipe her tears. It was my fault, making her sad again. This was why we hadn't seen each other much over the years. Whenever we got together, someone was always missing. It inevitably brought back memories of the past, and reminiscing was tinged with regret. Before I left, Aunt Yuan saw me off at the station. She had a lot to say, hesitating, but finally only managed to get married soon. I chuckled. "Aunt Yuan, you forgot. I'm already married. But my husband was a scoundrel. All these years, he never came back to see me. When he left, he only said he'd be back soon, but he never returned. I made so many calls, wrote so many letters, cursed him countless times in my dreams. But no matter how I acted out this time, he ignored me. He ignored me. Siju was concerned about my livelihood after the breakup. He specifically allocated a portion of his assets to give to me. Looking at that long string of numbers, I felt a bit dazed. Unbeknownst to me, Siju had become so successful. But his money, I wouldn't take it. I'm not entitled to this money. After all, we never married. You often need surgeries and your work requires a lot of money. You don't need to give this to me. I remember the day I left. I still have some things at your place. When is a good time for me to come get them? Adhering to the principle of a clean break, I wanted to end this 13-year relationship with dignity. But Siju suddenly laughed. I didn't know what he was laughing at, only noticing his face looked strangely pale. His laughter didn't carry the relief of shaking off a burden. "Why did you say those things to Sujia last time? We've already broken up, yet you still care if I'm sick?" "Zhongning, I've said it before. If you want to get married, I'll marry you. Just say the word, I don't want to." Maybe Aunt Yuan's words made me realize I shouldn't hold Siju back like this. "I never thought about marrying you." Afraid he wouldn't believe me, I emphasized, "That's the truth. You don't need to feel guilty about this. It's not your problem between us. It's mine." Siju opened his mouth, speechless. It seemed like he wanted to retain, but not exactly. It felt more like testing. "Are you against marriage? You could have told me earlier. Maybe then we wouldn't have had to break up." "I'm not. On the contrary, I yearned for marriage. Back then, waiting to reach the legal marriage age of 20, I counted the days on my fingers. That time was hard to endure, but I hadn't expected the time after 20 to be even harder. Actually, Secretary Sue is nice. I can tell she really likes you." I stood up, speaking earnestly. "Is it convenient for me to come get my things today?" While speaking, I didn't notice Siju's hand gripping his glass. His palm was strong, anger concentrated in it, almost crushing the glass. After a long pause, he stared at my face but only managed two words. "It's convenient." Those items were easy to pack, fitting into one bag. When I walked out, Siju was still in the living room, holding something in his hand. I stood in the home we had shared for years, saying goodbye to the man I had loved for 13 years. Siju just sat there expressionless. The bright sunlight seemed incongruous with the scene. "I won't come here again in the future." I put down the keys to leave, taking one last look at this place. I remembered when we first moved in, how excitedly Siju showed me the terrace garden. This was the first apartment he bought, bearing our earliest promises and most sincere love. Here, we weren't husband and wife in name, but we surpassed being husband and wife. Now, truly leaving, what I felt nostalgic for were the memories, not Siju himself. A ding sound, clear and crisp. It was the ring being dropped on the coffee table. Siju stepped forward with a complex expression, grabbing my bag strap with one hand. "You really plan to just leave like this? We were together for 13 years. In all these days apart, have you thought of me even once?" He seemed genuinely perplexed, and it made sense. I wasn't young anymore, nor as beautiful as the women around him. Logically, it should be me crying bitterly, regretting proposing the breakup. But I wasn't. My calmness made Siju feel unbalanced, I guessed. It couldn't be anything else. Men tend to be competitive in relationships. A woman's tears are their trophies for showing off. Soft-heartedness and regret seem like things a woman should naturally feel. When the situation gets out of control, they're like dogs who've lost their territory or toy, barking anxiously. I really hoped Siju wasn't like that, but it seemed now. He was no different from those men. Meeting his earnest gaze, I shook my head, finally shattering his last line of defense. "Didn't you say you wanted to break up with me long ago?" For a moment, I had thought about letting go of the past and marrying him. It was just that such thoughts were quickly stifled by him himself. Turning to leave, I felt the tear at the corner of my eye. So parting was a bit more painful than I had imagined. Siju was sick. Very seriously so. Siju's mother found me, humbly begging me to go see him. I was still anxious. Once it involved his health, I couldn't help but care. Yuan King stood beside me, his brows also tightly furrowed. Sis Zhongning, let me go with you. I wanted to refuse, but Yuan King showed an unusual stubbornness. I had seen that expression before. Sis Zhongning, I'm going. Let me go. Unable to win the argument, I nodded in agreement. On the way, Siju's mother tearfully told me Siju was sickly since childhood and had a major surgery. He only got better after being with you. Now it's relapsed. She cried, not knowing I was more anxious than she was. No one in this world feared Siju falling ill more than I did. Yuan King sat in the passenger seat. I saw his expression gradually grow solemn. So he already knew. I still thought of him as a little kid who used to fight me for grapes. The doctor had stabilized Siju's condition, but a long treatment and recovery period still lay ahead. In front of us, the doctor was about to say something when Siju's mother interrupted him. Wiping her tears, she instructed me, Ning Ning, go get some medicine first and take it to Siju's room. He'll need it when he wakes up. I knew. She wanted me out of the way. But there was no need. Siju had a heart transplant as a child. That heart belonged to Yuan King's older brother, Yuan Zheng. I sat by the bed. Time seemed to stand still. I wasn't too sure if I saw the young Siju or the Yuan Zheng of the past. Leaning close to Siju. He was real. His heartbeat was real. When I was with him, I often leaned against the place where his heart was, greedily absorbing every trace of Yuan Zheng's existence. This wasn't good. It was very unfair to Siju. So I tried my best to compensate him, accompanying him through hardships, using all my savings to support his business, meeting all his demands, including breaking up. After all, from the start, I just wanted to stay by his side, or rather, stay by Yuan Zheng's heart. But now Siju was sick, suffering a severe immune rejection reaction. I stayed by his side, pressing close to that heart, so close it felt like I could hear Yuan Zheng's voice again. I saw us in our teens, him, me, and Yuan King in the small courtyard of the Yuan family. He climbed high to pick grapes, holding onto the trellis, the purple grapes in his hand swaying back and forth, the gaps of light constantly expanding and shrinking. Slowly, the face behind it seemed to blur. It had been too long since I'd seen Yuan Zheng, so long I was starting to forget him. The last memory was of him graduating successfully from police academy. His epaulets were beautiful and dazzling, but stained with blood, they became my nightmare. That day was just 3 days short of my 20th birthday. We had agreed to get our marriage license in 3 days. I was impatient, couldn't wait a single day. Yuan Zheng was always unhurried, always saying he was right there, wouldn't run away. He lied. He wasn't there anymore. He ran away, without ever looking back. I wanted to run too, but couldn't find the right path. So I guarded his heart instead like a lost soul. The tear at the corner of my eye was wiped away. I opened my damp eyes to meet Siju's face. Over the years, I had countless times fantasized it was all a nightmare. But every time I woke, I saw Siju. He made me sober. Are you crying for me? Siju seemed doubtful, yet showed rare gentleness. Don't worry. The heart in me belonged to a good person. I'll be fine. A good person. Yuan Zheng gave his life and organs, but at the end of his life, all he got was the label good person. Perhaps even his name would be erased by time. I felt angry, but then thought, no one was obligated to stay trapped in that nightmare forever like I was. I couldn't force that on anyone. That wasn't what Yuan Zheng wanted either. Becoming a police officer was his dream. Donating his heart was also his own wish before he died. I should respect and accept that, but I couldn't forget him. If even I forgot, who would remember him? I didn't speak, pressed the nurse call button. As I got up to leave, Siju spoke urgently, his sickly face filled with panic. Zhongning, I don't want to break up. Let's just pretend nothing happened. I didn't propose, didn't say those things to my mom, and you didn't see them, okay? He looked pitiful, so much so I almost softened. But I knew pity wasn't love. I sniffed, holding back the tears about to fall. I can pretend I didn't see them, can you? Siju was a good person. So good I couldn't bear to continue weaving this lie of love. It was enough for me to be the prisoner alone. Why drag him down to? He really froze, his expression helpless and terrified after a long pause. As if gathering all his strength, he asked, so all these years, you were only good to me because of this heart, no? The question was too pointed and sharp. My explanation wouldn't satisfy Siju much. Being good to you was sincere. Loving the heart was also true. If Siju wanted to know, following the clue of Aunt Yuan, he could trace a lot. For example, she had 2 sons. One was Yuan King, often by my side. Siju knew him. Yuan King called him brother-in-law, never called Siju brother. He only had one brother, who died 14 years ago. A vigorous and dynamic death. In that era of slower information dissemination, it started with news, then newspapers. The front pages for a while were all about Yuanjung. Those exaggerated stories about how brave he was, how he fought the gangsters, how he was stabbed 13 times before dying lasted quite a while. But new events always bury old names. In less than a month, no one would remember him. In less than a year, it would be forgotten completely. But searching online, you could still find the details from that year. It wasn't hard to find. I wasn't surprised Siju would know. I hadn't meant to hurt him. After all, being deceived for 13 years by the woman he loved was a huge blow to anyone. Yuanjung's heart was still in Siju's body. If Siju suffered, the heart would suffer too. Yuan King stayed by my side. He was always clumsy with words, even as a kid. Yuanjung always called him silly younger brother, and I followed suit. He'd stomp his feet angrily, pointing at me. "I'm not your brother," Yuanjung retorted. "Why not? She's not my real sister." "What about real sister-in-law then?" Yuan King was young, didn't understand what sister-in-law meant. I did. But all these years, I never got to hear Yuan King call me sister-in-law. He still called me Sis Zhongning, persuade me to let go. I was stunned, emotions churning. If it weren't for Siju, if I couldn't hear Yuanjung's heartbeat, I wouldn't have lasted till today. I smiled bitterly, tears almost falling. If I hadn't let go, I would have jumped off a building long ago. My parents died young, and I was fostered at my uncle's house. During those days of living under someone else's roof, where even a sip of hot water depended on their mood, it was Yuanjung who lifted me up. But later, he went to save others and never came back. That day, I waited and waited, but what came was only a mangled flesh and blood Yuanjung who would never open his eyes again. He was fragmented, my heart turned to ashes. During that time, I have thought countless times of leaving with Yuanjung. It was Aunt Yuan who stopped me. If she hadn't personally told me that Yuanjung's heart was donated, I don't think I could have pulled myself together. But I never meant to harm Siju. After all, during those 13 years, I had hinted many times at breaking up. Finally finding the opportunity to separate, he regretted it. To end things quickly, I submitted my resignation to the school, planning to leave this place soon to avoid further entanglements. The resignation process took over half a month. On the day I was leaving, I received a call for help from Siju's mother. She was sobbing uncontrollably, begging me to help find Siju. It turned out that after leaving the hospital, his mental state had been terrible. This was inseparable from my words. Being deceived for 13 years, someone as proud as him, how could he be safe and sound? I agreed to look for him. I searched everywhere he might be from dawn till dusk. The car finally stopped at the noodle shop where Siju and I had our first meal together. Over the years, the noodle shop had been renovated, new paint, new signboard. Even the owner's son had grown up. When I entered, Siju was sitting inside. A bowl of beef noodles was in front of him, untouched. I was a bit angry. My hair was messy, I'd been running around all day, looking tired and haggard. To find him, I missed my departure flight. "What are you doing here?" Siju exhaled a puff of smoke, crushed the cigarette butt in the ashtray. He raised his eyes. He seemed to have lost weight, his eye socket sunken, stubble unshaven. He was always so meticulous, but now his shirt was full of wrinkles. Seeing him like this made me feel very upset. But not because of love. That thin, insignificant bit of love I had for him had long been destroyed by his repeated hot and cold treatment and being half-hearted. "Why are you here?" Siju really seemed a bit crazy. "Afraid I'll do something bad, ruin this heart?" I sat down across from him, trying to use the old tactic I used on him. I reached for his hand, wanting to comfort him, the comfort tinged with impatience. "Stop messing around, go back. Your mom is waiting." Siju shook off my hand, his gaze falling on the bowl of beef noodles. He looked miserable, pitiful, like an abandoned stray dog. But he seemed to forget he was the one who cheated first, who wanted to break up. Was it just because he found out the heart belonged to Yuanjung that he became like this? That would be too funny. I deceived him, but he also drifted away from me. I originally thought the separation was for the best. "Don't you have other women by your side?" I tried to persuade him. "This heartbroken act, is it really because you love me, don't want to break up?" He didn't speak. His face is dejected, a smile at the corner of his lips that I couldn't quite understand. I didn't stop, continued speaking. The more I said, the more it proved my determination to leave. "You're just not reconciled. I don't love you." I said so much. But Siju didn't listen to any of it. He only asked, "Back then, when you brought me here, alms me a bowl of noodles, was it also because of this heart? Do you want to hear the truth? The truth is often hurtful." Siju was silent, but I felt no compassion. From the very beginning, approaching you was because I knew you weren't doing well, and wanted to help you. Afraid if I lived poorly and died, this heart would die too, yes. I had no reason to deceive him anymore. All that goodness was just to preserve the traces of Yuan Zhang's existence. Siju frowned with a smile, laughing until his eyes turned red, tears about to fall. Not even a little bit of love? Just a little. His voice was hoarse. In that moment, images of being neglected and treated coldly flashed before me, all those times waiting in an empty house for Siju. Back then, he was probably in his female secretary's bed. I shook my head, strangled his last bit of hope. I walked out of the noodle shop, but didn't go far. Across the street, I saw Siju sitting inside eating the cold beef noodles. His face was no longer immature. It had become cold and hard. But I still seemed to see that teenager chewing a cold bread on a winter night. I walked over and gently tapped his shoulder. "Is this all you're eating? Is it enough?" His unease and panic showed. He nodded, then shook his head. Without waiting for his consent, I took him into this noodle shop and ordered the signature beef noodles. He ate very politely, very carefully, as if he had never been treated with such an inexplicable kindness before. He'd look at me after every 2 bites. Only after finishing did he remember to ask, "Why treat me to noodles?" Whether he believed it or not, I knew, that time, it was simply out of heartache. After finishing that bowl of noodles, Siju walked out, stumbled into his car. He didn't leave, sat in the car gazing at the moonlight. I personally saw tears rolling down his face. A month into my new life happened to be Yuan Zhang's death anniversary. I went to visit his grave. I bought fresh, beautiful flowers and placed them before the tombstone. The photo on the stone had blurred somewhat with the passage of time, the features were fading, the eyes especially hazy, but you could still tell he was smiling. I stayed there a long time and said many things, but no one would answer me. Even if I cried, Yuan Zhang wouldn't fluster and wipe my tears for me anymore. The setting sun came down, warming my face until it burned, evaporating my tears. In the haze, it seemed I saw again the last time I ever saw Yuan Zhang. He was leaving on a mission, in a great hurry. He had promised to have dinner with me, but after a phone call he rushed to leave. I was being willful, grabbing him, not letting him go. He wanted to comfort me, but his face was anxious. When he scolded me gently, his tone lacked force. He called me Ninging, told me to wait a little longer, that he would come back, and then he would make it up to me. Angry and frantic, I blurted out, "If you leave now, I'll never speak to you again." It was a petulant thing to say, but in the end it came true. After that, no matter how much I cried or screamed, no matter how I called his name before his body, begging him to get up and pay attention to me, he remained silent. The doctor said the 13 stab wounds hadn't hit any vital organs. Yuan Zhang died from excessive blood loss. In his final moment, he murmured, "Day after tomorrow, the wedding, must get married." He knew I was still waiting for him, and he knew he had broken his promise. But I don't blame him anymore. I don't blame anyone anymore. After leaving the cemetery, I received another call from Siju's mother. This time, I hung up. She sent a text, Ninging, "Auntie just wants to chat with you." In the call, she wasn't crying anymore. Calm and happy, her tone tinged with irrepressible excitement, she said, "Ninging, I thought after you and Siege broke up, you'd never answer my calls again." Still not recovered from the grief, I wiped my tears and forced a smile. "That wouldn't happen, Auntie, that's good." Siju's mother sighed. "Even if you've parted ways, I've always seen you as a daughter. It's a pity we probably won't see each other again." Not seeing each other again is true. I will never go back. Unable to offer comfort, I said, "Please take good care of yourself. My health isn't important." She seemed to be weighing her words, thinking for a long time, but ultimately swallowed them back. I could guess what she wanted to say. Siju's mental state had been terrible lately. He'd been admitted to a psychiatric hospital. I learned this from mutual friends, but there was nothing I could do about it anymore. I don't want to see him again, and he wouldn't want to see me either. Fortunately, Siju's mother didn't bring this up. She chatted casually about the past, about how I had taken care of her. The sun gradually sank behind the mountains, and suddenly a hollow emptiness opened in my chest, as if Yuan Zhang had truly left me. A kindly laugh suddenly came through the phone. Siju's mother said, "You are a good child. It's Siege who isn't worthy of you, Auntie." "That's not true." "How isn't it?" She interrupted me. "You didn't know, did you? He had a heart condition before. Had surgery. Those years the family was struggling. Later, after he earned money, he made a special trip to thank the donor's family. Back then, he often said this life was a second chance, and being with you was also a blessing he stumbled upon." My ears grew numb and so did my heart, as if it had skipped a few beats. I couldn't quite hear clearly. "Auntie, you said he went to the donor's family." "Yes," she said it naturally. Originally, the hospital wouldn't disclose such things, but this boy was stubborn. It seemed the donor was a police officer, so it was easy to find. Scene after scene replayed before my eyes. The oddness every time Yuan King met Siege. The words in Siju's car, "The way you look at him is strange." He knew because Yuan King looked very much like Yuan Zheng. He also knew that Auntie Yuan wasn't my godmother, but Yuan Zheng's mother. He knew even more that I was with him because of a heart. They had all known, for a very, very long time. Everyone was acting along with me, including Siege. He orchestrated everything just to push me away, to let me leave without any lingering worries. He gave me my freedom, but I ruined him. The sunset. The last ray of twilight was gathered away. Like Siege that day, I sat in the car, weeping uncontrollably. Extra, Siege's perspective 6 months ago. I received a letter of thanks. Not from me for Zhongning. She had donated most of her money. Over the years as a teacher, she hadn't earned much. The luxury items I gave her, she rarely used. She wasn't wealthy enough to donate such a large sum all at once. So there was only one reason. She wanted to leave. 13 years together. And I still couldn't make her forget that man. That's my failure. The last thing I could do for her was to push her away, to let her wholeheartedly yearn for that person with peace of mind. My coldness, the photos with Sujia, even those messages I used to drive her away all were meant to make her leave cleanly and decisively. Sure enough, I succeeded. Zhang Ning left resolutely. In those 13 years, that scenario was what she had dreamed of. During our time together, I knew her kindness toward me, her smiles and gentleness, were never meant for me. In winter, she worried I'd be cold. In summer, she worried I'd be hot. No matter how busy, I was always her first priority. She learned to cook and make soup, always bought walnuts for me to eat. But was she truly concerned about me? Or was she nourishing him? Zhang Ning thought she hid it well. Everyone said she loved me to death. None of my friends weren't envious that I had such a girlfriend, one who could share both joy and hardship, who didn't get jealous, didn't act willful, didn't make unreasonable demands. But behind it all, there was only one reason. She didn't love me. The day I found the heart donor and met Yuan King, I confirmed it. That day, Yuan King showed me their childhood photos. The three of them stood in the courtyard, that man in the middle, Zhang Ning holding his arm. Her expression was youthful, shy, with a blush on her face reserved for a beloved. It was something I had never seen. After returning, I flew into a rage. Zhang Ning wasn't angry. She specially made noodles and asked if I wanted to eat. Seeing her like that, my anger suddenly vanished. I had received that person's heart. I had Zhang Ning. If I still longed for love, wasn't that too greedy? I regretted it immensely. How could I have been harsh with Zhang Ning? I held her for a long time. But she caressed my heart and murmured, "Don't be angry. It's not good for your health. Not good for the heart, especially." I had thought that sooner or later, Zhang Ning would come to love me, forget him. But in the later years, whenever I hinted at marriage, she gently refused each time. Yuan King told me that man died 3 days before their wedding date. All these years, Zhang Ning had considered herself his wife. She would not marry anyone else. I accepted it, as long as she would stay by my side. For this, I didn't hesitate to imitate that person's clothing and mannerisms. I asked Yuan King for details and copied them one by one. But when I appeared before Zhang Ning wearing clothes similar to that person's, her gaze swept over them lightly, and she smiled, saying they looked nice. I knew she was lying. She didn't care what I wore. She only cared whether the heart beating in my chest was still alive. After parting, Zhang Ning took some of her things and left others behind. I thought I could bear it. But every time I opened the door, the desolate air and endless night enveloped me. The warmth and sweetness of the past turned into a nightmare. I couldn't help wanting to see Zhang Ning. To that end, I took the initiative to tell my mother about the breakup. She scolded me fiercely, crying that she only wanted Ninging as her daughter --. So did I. I only wanted Ninging as my wife. But she didn't want to be my wife. After parting, I thought constantly, in those 13 years, was there really not even a little love? To find out, I even brought Sujia to see her. I so hoped she would show even a trace of anger or jealousy. But she didn't. She told Sujia to take good care of me. I wanted to see her. So badly. So badly that I used a despicable pretext offering money as compensation to see her. I couldn't accept life without her by my side. I humbled myself. Almost begged. I regretted pushing her away. But she told me herself she had never thought of marrying me. Even her kindness toward me was because of the heart. I accepted it. But it was hard to digest. My health deteriorated day by day. The psychologists tried their best to treat me. But 3 months after the breakup, I was still admitted to the hospital. These days, I've often been in a daze, remembering when Zhang Ning and I first met. She took me to eat noodles, cared about my life, helped me look after my mother, said she liked me. It felt beautifully unreal. A couple of days ago, Mother told me Zhang Ning was with Auntie Yuan and living well. As long as she is well, everything I did was worth it. Time for medicine again. So bitter. But at least today I can go downstairs for a walk. The nurse said the sunlight has been lovely lately. I sat on a bench, my vision blurred. In the distance, a breeze came, carrying a flurry of white willow catkins. I looked into the wind, and there stood a woman, her eyes red, looking at me, and